Ryomen Sukuna. Whether you want to call this man a villain or an antagonist, one thing that we can all commonly agree on is that this man is a problem. Sukuna is the embodiment of a man that lives life on his own terms. He doesn't care about nobody but himself. Sukuna in his world is at the center of the universe and everything revolves around him. Sukuna is a problem and makes the story of Jujutsu Kaisen that much more interesting, increasing the tension, the stakes, and the suspense. But before we dive even deeper, I'ma need y'all to hit that like button and I'ma need y'all to hit that subscribe button. Support the channel, man. Keeps the channel going, keeps me motivated, and I can pump out more of this content. But yo, let's get into this video. Sukuna from the very beginning has just been a man with his own agenda. And I'm not gonna lie to you, we don't really know what he's genuinely after. It's not like he's some villain with just some master plan to enslave the whole planet and whatnot. He's just a man trying to fight strong opponents. Outside of that, we don't really know what his end game actually is. In the beginning, I really thought that Yuji and Sukuna's relationship would turn into something like Naruto and Kurama. Clearly, if you're up to date on the culling games and whatnot, this man is not here for none of that. Sukuna's existence constantly changes the focus of the narrative over and over and over again. The focus was on Yuji Itadori, who was the main character, and then decides to switch to Megami Fushiguro. Even though the story focuses on these two characters and whatnot, ultimately it all revolves around Sukuna, either trying to revive Sukuna or preventing his revival. Sukuna's unpredictable nature and his ability as a character to be able to change the focus of the story makes for a better story because one, it's unpredictable. Two, the anime isn't even a shonen. I'm not sure what category it's actually in, but the thing is that the story itself doesn't put anybody above the line in the sense of being killed off. So long story short, anybody can get it. And I think that raises the stakes and it also raises the interest, which is why people like it so much. I would almost call Jujutsu Kaisen the modern day version of Hunter x Hunter. At the beginning of the story, Sukuna in Yuji's body actually fights Gojo, and I mean Gojo does actually state that he is the strongest sorcerer, but Sukuna being the strongest in all of history, of course, that's a challenge. From this point on, Sukuna developed a multi-stage plan which he actually used to kill Gojo. Phase 1 of the plan, Sukuna actually sets up a binding vow with Yuji, which in turn was to actually heal Yuji, provided that Yuji gives him control for 1 minute when Sukuna actually uses the word enchain. In this minute, Sukuna has complete control over Yuji, he can't hurt anybody during this time, and also Yuji also forgets the fact that they actually made a binding vow together. That's all the conditions. The second part of the plan was actually when Sukuna took interest in Megami. Sukuna was interested in his potential and his abilities, namely the 10 shadows. And you know, the strongest of the 10 shadows is Maharaga, which basically has the ability to adapt to anybody's curse technique. I knew he was definitely interested in Megami because in the Shibuya arc, Sukuna actually heals Megami. Now, if he wasn't interested in Megami, he wouldn't have healed him. So the next part was in the culling games. Basically, Yorozu actually reveals herself to Yuji and to Megami. Sukuna exploits this opportunity and decides to take over Yuji's body. Now remember, Sukuna can't hurt anybody, but the thing is that the loophole that he actually finds is that one, Yuji isn't included in that vow to not hurt anybody. And in that moment, Sukuna basically transfers himself into Megami's body, which in turn shifts the narrative again because now it's no longer about trying to save Gojo, it's now about trying to save Gojo and Megami, all because of Sukuna. Now phase 4 of the plan, Gojo finally gets rescued and Sukuna ends up fighting Gojo. Sukuna uses Megami's techniques, mainly Maharaga, as a way to bypass Gojo's infinity, which inevitably leads to his death. Sukuna's strength and presence in the story is so great that the main villain of the actual story had to exploit Sukuna's desires to fight strong people as a way to get rid of Gojo. Kenjaku knows he can't beat Gojo. I don't even even think he can even beat Okotsu. But then he also knows that he can't fight Sukuna either. So the best way he could find a way to get rid of Gojo was to have Gojo fight Sukuna. And we all know Gojo is a good guy, but he also wants to fight strong opponents just as badly as Sukuna. So it was the perfect opportunity. We don't even know Sukuna's curse technique. In the story, whenever somebody's curse technique is displayed, it's usually explained with what the curse technique can actually do. Sukuna's never explained his curse technique. We only know what he can do based on the opponents he's fought, and honestly just reverse engineer the situation and speculating what he could do. There's a black box that he used against Jugo. We have no idea what that's about. We know he can use cleave and dismantle. He has his domain expansion. And then for the most part, the other techniques he was using were really just megames. Sukuna is just a complete menace to the point where he doesn't side with anybody but himself. And honestly, I remember when he got revived in Shibuya, the two girls who work under Kenjaku, although they hate Gojo for what he did to Geto, they hate Kenjaku more. And they gave Sukuna 2 fingers, to which they thought it would be enough for them to actually be able to make a request from Sukuna to kill Kenjaku. Sukuna just mercilessly slaughters them both. Jugo gives him 10 fingers, and you know what makes it interesting? Jugo washed Maki, the old man, and Nanami without a sweat, and Jugo is ridiculously fast despite how he's been portrayed in the story. This man is beyond terrified about being in the presence of Sukuna. I remember reading this in the manga and just looking at everybody. Toji's around, Sukuna's around, and Gojo's gone. Nanami's basically dead at this point. Nobara's about to die. The only people left are Yuji, Megami, a couple side characters, and I just sat there thinking, yeah, you guys are done. There's no getting out of this. No. Y'all are done. Just wrap up and take your asses home. Sukuna is the plot device. When thrown into the story, throws everything into chaos, and whatever ounce of hope that you thought the good guys were actually gonna have is gone the moment Sukuna is present. It's almost like when Gojo was declared the winner when he fought with Sukuna, and then in the next chapter we find out that Sukuna had actually killed Gojo. And the worst part about it, the way he killed him was completely horrific. Like, this guy got cut in half. His legs are still standing tall and the top half of his body is on the ground. And that was it. And the craziest part is that Kashimo decides to enter the battle thinking, yeah, you know, I'm top dog. If Gojo loses, I got next. And he washes Kashimo. And you know what the craziest reveal is? Sukuna has had the ability to reinstate his original body, although he can do it just once, without reverse curse technique this whole time. He didn't even do that to Gojo. And it makes me sit there and think, how strong is Sukuna? And honestly, who's actually gonna take this man out? Now, I could easily just say, you know, Yuji's gonna get stronger, whatever and stuff. He's gonna get a power up and stuff or whatever. But I ain't gonna lie to you. I was one of those guys that thought Gojo was gonna win that fight. And clearly, we was all disappointed. I'm under the impression now that because of Sukuna suppressing Megami's soul and also allowing him to take the damage of Unlimited Void, Megami is coming back as a vegetable. There is no chance that this man is coming back the same at all. Sukuna didn't even give Gojo his all when he fought with him, to the extent that he actually made Gojo admit that in death, he wasn't even sure if he could actually beat Sukuna if he wasn't using the 10 Shadows technique. Take that in. The one thing that I love about Sukuna's character is that he knows what he wants out of life and he's very sure of himself. And the thing is that he believes that the strong are loved because they are strong. He doesn't care about trying to relate to others. He doesn't believe that he needs love at all. The only thing that he cares for is being the strongest, and also not in the sense of being able to relate to other people, because he believes that you can't relate to others and be the strongest at the same time. I think that's where he believes that Gojo and Kashimo went wrong. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. It's a pretty deep concept, but I'll go into that maybe in another video. To wrap up, Sukuna is a phenomenal addition to the story, and I feel like his presence really makes just the story be that much unpredictable, but be that much exciting just because of the intense amount of tension that Sukuna's presence actually brings to the story. You don't really know what side he's going with, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, whether he's gonna help or make things significantly worse. And honestly, I'm really excited to see where his character goes, who ends up taking him out, and how it's actually done. But honestly, that's all for me. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all later, man. Peace.